Albert Breer from Sports Illustrated and the Breer Report with how he sees the quarterback position kind of unfolding over the next few weeks for the Browns.
I think the likelihood is they have Kenny Pickett there again as their baseline, that they potentially draft a quarterback on the second day of the draft. And if they come out of the first day of the draft without one, that's where I think they could make their move for Kirk Cousins. It's been well established. Kirk Cousins wants out of Atlanta. He wants to go somewhere where he's going to have a chance to play. He has said that to Falcons ownership. I was in a small media session with Falcons owner Arthur Blank, who said he's comfortable paying what they're paying for Kirk Cousins to be their backup quarterback. You've got a little bit of a standoff there. Cousins has told other teams that Cousins camp has told other teams that he will not waive his no trade clause until after the first day of the draft. So what happened to him last year in Atlanta won't happen again. But I think there's a good chance that we get to Thursday night of the draft. The Browns wind up taking Abdul Carter second overall. And then on Friday morning, they double back with the Falcons. They work something out with the $27.5 million that he's guaranteed for 2025. Maybe there's some sort of split of the money there. The Falcons get to clean the slate for Michael Penix. They get to save some of the money, which includes the $10 million guarantee for 2026. And the Browns have their starting quarterback for this year and a guy who has experience having worked with Kevin Stefanski as his quarterback's coach in 2018 in Minnesota and then his offensive coordinator with the Vikings in 2019.
Let's welcome Bill Sparks, writer and analyst for DraftProfessor.com and TWSN to the show. Bill, appreciate it. Your thoughts on, Kirk Cousins and the Browns potentially acquiring him?
Yeah, so Albert talked about it. Obviously, the connection between Stefanski and Kirk Cousins is there from their time in 2018 and 2019. But when you look at what it's going to take, the first thing you have to conversate is the draft capital. What are you going to have to give up to acquire Kirk Cousins? The second thing, that contract, Albert talked about it. Who's going to eat the money? Is it going to be Atlanta? Is it going to be Cleveland? If Atlanta eats the money, could they ask for more capital? And then the third thing you have to think about is with Kirk Cousins, he's up there in years. You're probably going to not get maybe more than 2-3 seasons at the max of him. So you're going to be back in the same boat in about 2 to 3 years. So you also have to factor in his injury history, the Achilles injury, the shoulder and elbow injury. How much of Kirk Cousins do you have left? And for me, I'm out. I understand where Albert Breer is coming from. The Browns quarterback room right now is Kenny Pickett and then obviously Deshaun Watson with his injury history as well. So there's a need there and there's a connection there between Stefanski and Kirk Cousins, but I would be out on Kirk Cousins just for those reasons alone.
Yeah, I understand that position. I would go in and the reason would be, and I know he played horribly last half of last year. But after 9 games, Falcons were 6-3. He had 17 touchdowns, just 7 picks. Took a hit on his arm in that Saints game, which was their 10th game. And in talking to a couple of the beat reporters, they didn't even try to, they weren't playing to his strengths. They didn't do the play action in that. So I'm a little more intrigued, but I certainly understand. I don't think he's washed, but I certainly understand the age and not sure how much you're going to get out of him. I just don't think there's any great options at this point.
Yeah, when you look at Kirk Cousins' stats too, obviously, like you talked about, 17 touchdowns, you have to break down the numbers a little deeper. 10 of those touchdowns came between 2 games against Tampa and then 1 game against Dallas, who Tampa this past season didn't have the greatest passing defense, especially in that secondary. And then obviously Dallas had kind of struggled a little bit down the stretch. But there are still some good options at quarterback where you can get younger and get cheaper. I look at a guy like Malik Willis out of Green Bay, played really well in relief this past season, just a little bit younger at the quarterback position and could be had for a day 3 selection, somewhere in that 4th round or one of the early 6th rounders as well. Obviously, another option if you're going to go quarterback and you want to trade for it, Tennessee's in the quarterback market. They've been connected to Cam Ward pretty heavily, which makes Will Levis available. You could package, picks 103 and 179 over to Tennessee for Will Levis and still probably get pick 167 back as well if you wanted to go that route. And Will Levis is a guy, it's a developmental quarterback, strong arm, just needs to work on his mechanics and his ball placement. And I think, Kevin Stefanski can definitely work with that kind of quarterback, especially with the arm talent that Levis brings. But if you didn't want to trade for one and you still wanted to sign one in free agency, there's still some really good options out there to kind of hold you over if you're not sold on a quarterback at two. Obviously, there's Carson Wentz, of course, had some down years in Indianapolis, but had some really great showings while he was in Philly as well. There's some further down the list options. Obviously, there's Trey Lance if you wanted to go that route. If you wanted to go with Tyler Huntley, who was on the practice squad this past season at 27 years old, is another option as well. So I don't think that you necessarily need to tie yourself to Kirk Cousins, but you do hit the nail on the head there, Dave. There's not a whole lot of options if you're not looking to try to
Yeah.
develop a guy early on.